Good afternoon, Father Principal, Father Vice Principal, our distinguished speaker, Mr. Rahul Agarwal, members of the advisory committee, faculty members, our esteemed moderator, Mr. Michael Wharton, and all the students of St. Xavier's College, Autonomous Kolkata. We heartily welcome you to our annual flagship international level management event, Xavier's Management Convention, better known as XMC. This year's XMC required participants to demonstrate their work and strive for greatness and achievement. In perfect coordination and harmony, XMC 2022 brought together wisdom, eloquence, and perseverance. This event comprised a variety of challenging activities designed to test the participants' ability to express themselves and reveal their underlying abilities. We at St. Xavier's College believe in our vision of nihil ultra, which means nothing beyond, and this spirit pervaded in the event as well. The purpose of the event is to provide a platform for students to put their skills to test, to demonstrate their talent and drive, and to finally lead them down the route to success. The students of the Xavier's Management Society have worked hard to formulate and conduct this online event with immense zeal and avidity. Now, I would like to call upon our distinguished speaker, Mr. Rahul Agarwal. Mr. Rahul Agarwal was the CEO and Managing Director of Lenovo South Asia, its largest PC maker and an emerging services player from July 2015 to June 2021. He led all businesses including PC, laptops, tablets, smart devices, and services domains amounting to USD 1.5 billion and is credited for the transformation of the company into a profitable growth model and to become a device services company. India became the first and the only region where Lenovo became number one in both PCs and tablet segments. Mr. Agarwal holds a PGDM degree from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and holds an undergraduate degree in business management from College of Business Studies, Delhi University. He is a recipient of the coveted Young Alumni Achievers Award from IIMA in 2017. He is passionate about technology and the wide-ranging positive impact it can have on businesses and individuals. His interests lie in helping organizations sharpen the strategy, building bold goal and vision, creating detailed long-term plans, converting strategy into impactful and timely execution, creating core metric dashboards, creating robust business review cadence, build efficient and new sales RTMs, improving sales effectiveness, leadership coaching, and mentoring, creating high performance team and culture, hiring impactful leaders, expense optimization, digital transformation, and making marketing more ROI driven. I would also like to take the opportunity to introduce our esteemed moderator for today's session, Mr. Michael Wharton. Mr. Wharton is an admissions consultant, career coach, an aptitude test prep trainer by profession, and an entrepreneur and growth hacker by passion. Having studied at premier institutions such as St. Xavier's Kolkata, IIT Madras, and Cornell University, and with several years of experience in the education and consulting industries, he has gained a wealth of experience which he uses to help individuals realize their dream careers through the platform EduWaves. He has helped 10,000 plus candidates get top GMAT and GRE scores and gain admissions to top 50 ranked world class business schools. So we are glad to have you with us here today. Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Wharton, for gracing our event with your presence. We're glad to have you here with us. I would now like to hand over the session to the both of you. Mr. Agarwal, you're on mute. Mr. Agarwal, we cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, okay. I was not able to unmute myself. Thank you for the kind introduction, Vidushi. And I'm very happy, very pleased to be a part of this event. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. So due to some technical issues, Mr. Wharton will be joining shortly.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible. So sorry for that technical slip up. I think this is a reflection of the times we live in. A very good morning to all the dignitaries, the students, the wonderful individuals who have joined in to be a part of the session. At the outset, I would like to ask everyone over here, especially the young individuals, the young students, to reflect on this opportunity. The very fact that we're having this session today, we're here, we're healthy, we're alive, is something to be grateful for, despite everything that we have gone through over the past couple of years. And this session actually, on the very continuation of that note, is a wonderful opportunity to reflect and understand the way in which we can move forward from here. As you step into the real world, or rather I would say the world in which you look to get professional achievements, career advancements, there are many difficult obstacles that you'll have to learn to navigate. And this session is one where, lightheartedly, of course, we look to the ways in which we can navigate those situations, understand from the perspective of a revered individual, an individual who has navigated many of those situations, come to a phase where he can pass on that wisdom and help you achieve the goals that you set out to achieve at this stage. Now, very good morning to Rahul. So it's wonderful to have you here. It's absolutely a pleasure. And, I've been following Rahul for quite some time actually now, especially on, social media as it is, in terms of the different avenues that he's been following. And even though he's not aware of it, I'm, you could say, a little bit of a mini fan in a way. So I was actually very happy, when Inakshi from the XMS actually contacted me to organize or to moderate this session. On that note, I think without much ado, we more or less should take this session forward. And the first question that I would have for Rahul is, with so many rapid changes happening in the world today, I think, with certain developments like the Web3 and cryptocurrencies, with so many different kinds of avenues and opportunities available, and with these opportunities, of course, so many skills become redundant as well, and so many new skills start becoming relevant. In this age of education, it's so difficult to actually keep learning things that are going to be relevant even 3 to 5 years down the line. So with students living in an age where things are so rapidly changing, what do you think a fresher should keep in mind while they enter into the world going forward?
Yeah, Michael, firstly, thanks for the kind introduction. And I really didn't know that you were reading whatever few posts that I would publish in the social media, but great to be connected to you. Now, firstly, before I get to answer any of the questions, I just want to put out a little bit of a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that I would be answering these questions based on my experiences. My experiences are good, bad, ugly. My views have my own bias. They may not be right. They may not apply to everyone. And my own thought process keeps evolving as I age. I've worked for 25 years, and before all that I have, I guess, is a series of experiences which I keep kind of analyzing and keep distilling into some learnings. I surely do not want to call it wisdom. These days, the youngsters seem to have more wisdom than the oldies like me. So this is just just my sharing of my experiences, my thoughts, and my perspective. So, Michael, what you've asked is a very relevant question, and in the age of AI, especially AI and digitization, everyone is wondering, hey, what are the skills that would be available for tomorrow? And there is enough material being published in the public domain to suggest some kind of careers that would grow and some kind of careers that would maybe diminish with time. So clearly, when computerization came, when ATM came, the role of a cashier went out. In the derived market, when the CCTV came, the role of a security guard went out. So this is a constant evolution of humankind. In the 19th century, when industrialization happened, a lot of people lost their jobs. But the beauty of the evolution of humankind is that as jobs get eliminated, new jobs keep getting created. And I think that is what is important to try and track. It's impossible to really be sure of what kind of careers will come out. But a regular accountant, for example, that is clear that a computer can do a much better job of an accountant, right? So any jobs that are around AI, blockchain, definitely have a more promise for the future. And what is the way to find out? As I said, there is enough material available on the internet. There are jobs. I think 25-30% of the jobs will be made redundant by AI, right? Even radiologists, for example, the job of a radiologist will become redundant because computer can actually do a better job of reading the reports, including CT scan. The job of coders, software coders, will also get affected. There have been tests done that says that the machine actually can do better coding than even coders. So, so the trend is clear. But having said that, I've seen enough to know that things don't change suddenly, and we overestimate the changes that will happen in the next 2 years, and we underestimate the changes that will happen in the next decade. So I would say that world is not going to change dramatically and suddenly. So students should not feel unsettled. They just got to keep their ears and eyes open and look at careers that are opening. And whether they will like it or not is something that one can know by two things. A is some kind of aptitude test that I'm sure, Michael, in your methodology you use. And second is by actually trying your hand at it, do internship, do training, and see whether you like something or not. In my experience, it's difficult to know what you like. It's easier to know what you don't like.
Very true. That's wonderful advice, actually. I think the part where Rahul mentions that changes don't happen suddenly. They don't happen all at once. And if you keep your ears and eyes open, if we focus the energy on following the trends, following the news, then we'll surely know what kind of skills rather we would need to keep acquiring in order to upskill and stay relevant. I think staying relevant is what everybody needs to definitely focus on. I often, when I speak to certain kinds of students, and we talk about trying different things, you definitely put a very important point that it's easy to know what you don't want to do rather than what you want to do, because sometimes you'll try something and you'll find that it's not something that a student would like in the initial go. And that brings me to a very important point, that failure is also part of the process. Sometimes a student may try something and may not be good at it. And that in a way teaches a very important lesson that that particular aspect may not be the right kind of goal or the right kind of thing to go ahead with. Despite knowing it in the mind, students who are starting their careers are still extremely apprehensive towards failure, because all said and done, nobody likes failure. It tends to be a massive discouraging factor. How do you suggest students overcome thinking of this as a discouraging element in the process of discovering what they really want to do?
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 elements, I think, around that subject. One is the personality. There are some people who are more comfortable dealing with failures, and some people who are stressed out. I used to be stressed out a lot in my younger days. 2 is there's a generational shift happening, which is mild. But I would say that every new generation tends to be a little more open to trying new things. They feel generally more secured. And if people on the call are feeling not that secure, let me tell you that my generation was a lot more insecure about the future. Third is an attitude. There is a mindset. There's a very brilliant book called, I think it's called The Mindset Only. And it talks about 2 mindset. One is a growing mindset and one is a fixed mindset. And the growing mindset says that life is all about learning, constant learning, and failures. And if you're not failing, it means that you're not trying enough. And I can tell you, I've failed enough. That failures tend to stick in your mind more, and they tend to give you the hard lessons of life more. And anybody who's had a very comfortable life probably is depriving herself or himself from a lot of learnings. And failures are part of life. Life is not going to be a song. Therefore, conceptually, one must budget for some failures to happen. And failures can happen for all kind of reasons. It's important not to blame yourself when failures happen, because that is how the world is designed to be. Not everyone can succeed, right? We've all heard of Edison and Einstein, and while we know how much they have invented and succeeded, but they failed 100 times more than what they've succeeded in. So I think these are a few things that people should remember, and over a period of time, you get comfortable with failures.
Very true. Very true. This reminds me of this quote that I'm sure we all know, but just as a reminder, that was said by Thomas Edison when he discovered the light bulb. He said that he did not discover a way in which the light bulb will work. He discovered 10,000 ways in which it would not work. So behind every success, there would be so many failures. And one thing that a lot of students fail in a way to realize is that if they are on social media, if they're looking at the news, if they're looking at successes around them. I had a student once relate to me about how they're so frightened of going on LinkedIn as a platform, because they say that whenever they go on LinkedIn, the only thing they take a look at is individuals saying, I am proud to say that I've had this success, or I am glad to say that I've had this achievement. But then you must remember that behind all of that, there's of course so much of hard work and there's so much of failure. So success is visible because people shout it out. Failure is not visible, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. It is, of course, there, and it's happening all the time. And that's why it must be taken as a process of acceptance and never a reason not to try out something new. Wonderful. Another aspect that has been on many individuals' minds, I think, particularly now, ever since the pandemic started, was this new concept of getting into a very rigorous hustle culture. Students have also had a lot of time, given that they would not have to commute, given that their classes were online. And there have been many influencers who have advocated concepts such as the FIRE concept, which is about gaining financial independence very early and retiring early, or looking to start a side hustle. And this is very different from the beliefs that was there or are still there in the previous generation, which is about finish your education, get a good job, and work and keep on, growing and trying and becoming very successful within a company. Maybe go on to become the CEO of a company. For this new generation that is looking to gain financial independence by the time they're 25, is this really something that they should go after, or is there more that probably we may all be missing over here?
No, see, financial planning and retirement planning is a subject that has been very dear to me. And I started planning for what I eventually did almost 15 years ago. So I think unless you win a lottery, I don't think you can get financial independence at 25. Or you maybe your parents are one of those multimillionaires. But then right from day one, my view has been that one must start doing financial planning, because we can do all the theories in life, we can do all the philosophies in life, but the denominator of everything is money. Because if you do not have the right amount of money, that will come out to be the biggest pain in your life. And in the Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs, the first 2 or 3 needs are needs which are fulfilled by the right amount of money. So whatever one does, it is imperative that you think about money. And I'm going to cut myself short because I can just go on and on this subject. But I would just say that whatever you earn right from the first year, you got to have a rule, not a guidance, but a rule that you will save some amount of money. There are infinite temptations. There are infinite objects of desire to buy. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, your salary will always look lesser because we live in a grossly materialistic world. You can spend infinite amount of money on vacations or on cars or on clothes. So you got to have a rule that you have to save, and the saving percentage should go up every 2 or 3 years. And in my view, the realistic goal of becoming financial independent is maybe between 40 and 50. And if you can hit that around 45, I think you've done very well. But then you got to work with a financial planner and be clear about the numbers. So that is a very important part. And I think it's a very good question, Michael. Not many people think about it, but we quite often we underestimate the value of and the importance of money. Either we overestimate or we underestimate. But the goal should be to give money the right amount of weightage.
That's wonderful advice. I think especially for students who are just entering the world, probably going to just start getting a substantial paycheck at this point. That discipline which Rahul mentioned about allocating a certain amount and probably trying to make it as substantial and as large as possible towards saving is probably one of the biggest and best pieces of advice, because at the end of all of it, discipline can take you to places where motivation cannot. If you develop the right kind of habits, if you and if those right habits are revolved around money, then of course it would reap multiple dividends in the long run. And in that perspective, I was very it's profound that you mentioned about taking the advice of a financial planner as well. Of course, nobody can become an expert in one single subject, or rather multiple subjects. Maybe go on and become an expert in one subject, but becoming an expert in multiple subjects is difficult. And a lot of individuals do try to do their own financial planning, or even be it other aspects, try to learn things from scratch and do it themselves. However, even when individuals do try to find someone to help them, in terms of, let's say, trying to find a mentor, then many students do not get the right kind of mentorship to make these informed decisions. According to you, how important is it to find the right mentor? And as a follow-up, I would also like to ask a personal question of whether you in the past or maybe now also have a mentor, who you would like to share about how that person influenced you.
Yeah, see, we all need help in life. The only question is whether you know it or you don't, whether you realize it or you don't, and whether you do something about it or not. Even Roger Federer, even Nadal, even they need a coach. Right? So we all need mentors, and mentors are people who genuinely are interested in you, who do not have a agenda and angle of their own, who can actually be the mirror, who can tell you what you need to hear, but you may not want to hear, who may not always guide you, but who may tell you the implications of your decision making. Because I don't think anybody should decide for you, because there is no rule in life, what is right and what is wrong, that is demolished. But it's always good to know what are the implications, and that somebody with experience and your interest can always tell you. So I think one of the best things that youngsters can do is find mentors, and not just one, but as many. But start with one. Then every 2-3 years, if you are lucky enough to meet people who can be your mentors, and you have to tell them that, look, I would like you to be my mentor. So it cannot be that I think the way she talks to me, she's my mentor. No. 2, you got to schedule regular sessions. You got to update and get honest feedback from your mentor. I somehow, when I look back, Michael, no, I didn't really have a mentor, so to say, in my life. But over a period of time, I've built, a kind of an advisory board. So when I take a big decision, like when I wanted to quit my job, then I do go to them. But yes, this is one of the things that I would like to do differently. Maybe I was a little too sure of myself. I thought, how can anyone tell me anything, So there was that bit of youth that played out there, but I also maybe didn't have people. But I would strongly recommend that you look around, make a list of all the people who can be potential mentors. And it's a 3 to 5 year commitment, but the best mentors are the mentors for life.
That's wonderful advice. I think so many students at this age, you actually have access to making wonderful people mentors. It's probably something that once you enter the work life, it becomes a little bit more difficult. You obviously have managers and you have other individuals, but then as rightly pointed out, a mentor is someone who doesn't actually have an agenda. It's someone who genuinely cares for you, and just talking once in a while doesn't make a person a mentor. Giving that feedback, giving updates, extremely important points. So if anybody over here is looking for some kind of decision making advice, then I think if you're confused, then looking out for a mentor or looking out for a few mentors, a few people who could give you the right kind of advice is a really good starting point. In the end, we all need some help, and if you don't ask for help, if you don't try and seek it, then it's very rarely going to automatically come up and give you what advice you need.
And your parents and your boss can never be the mentor because they have an agenda. Parents always have an agenda.
I would agree on that one. There have been several. No, I wouldn't say several. It'll just overplayed, but there have been instances where you may not know it, but parents, if they're meeting a teacher, or let's say something as simple as a tuition teacher or a class teacher, before a parent takes a student to a tuition teacher or class teacher, they will separately call the tuition teacher and give certain inputs that they want the teacher to pass on to a student. So yes, there is a little bit of bias in most places, unless the person isn't related to you and doesn't have any, I would say, influence based on your success, your outcome. Because true mentorship has to be unbiased. It has to come from a place of genuine concern. But in the end, if you do well, if you don't do well, there shouldn't be a direct impact on the person who's giving that kind of advice. Another thing that I would like to talk about is, I had read a recent survey where it was reported that a lot of individuals, especially maybe during the pandemic and due to difficult lifestyles over the past few years, have had the development of certain mental disorders, mental health disorders. So there's been an increase about 20-25% on that. And students, of course, are not immune to this. A lot of it might be about not interacting with other individuals as much as possible, because at the end, man is a social animal, and that limitation did cause difficulties. What is your advice on helping students look after their mental well-being? What is a crucial ingredient that they would need to follow? How could they look after their mental well-being and make it good enough so that they could, go on and have a successful career?
Yeah, I guess I'm not an expert on this field, but I can share some simple mantras in life that I try to follow to stay positive. Man is a social animal, so having friends around always helps. Friends who you can be totally honest with, and always have one or two people with whom you can bear everything, and you do that regularly. To fitness, I've realized and I've seen that if you have a fitness regime, that puts you in a bit of a positive spin. Third is what I spoke earlier, which is work on your attitude, because disappointments are part of life. Anybody who doesn't want disappointment is in the wrong business of living, because life will come with disappointment. So if you prepare yourself with all the ups and downs, then you're more positive. And as you grow, build a philosophy of life, because life can be very tough. Life is meant to be tough. And it is important that you build your own philosophy so that the ups and downs do not affect you that much. And lastly, I would say that, being depressed or feeling low is not something that one should be ashamed of. There have been times I've been depressed. I get depressed, with all the gyan that I'm giving and all the fitness that I do. There have been very low points in my life, and you got to reach out. And now I can tell you that when I was young, this was not available, but now there are so many online, not just forums, but doctors are available, right? You don't even have to go visit and schedule a meeting with a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist is not a mad dog that bites. Psychiatrist is a profession that heals. And if you are feeling negative and nothing else is working out, go for professional help and do not delay it. And there is no shame in this, because our mind is the most complex object in life. Heart is simple, mind is very, very complex. And which is, I'm saying that I can be saying all this, but when it comes to managing my own mind and my own life, I think it's all becomes a bit of a hodgepodge thing, and I need to work on it. Therefore, be clear that this is going to happen, and when that happens, act on it. And thankfully, in the new world, this is not being seen as a taboo. This is being accepted and being seen as something that can happen to anyone, and it's bound to happen. It's absolutely bound to happen. But if I look at my parents, I don't think they would even admit it, that they had the lows, and they would not even think about doing something about it. But the world is changing, not everything is great, but one of the good things that is positive is that there is more openness on this subject.
That's a very, very valid advice. I think reaching out when you feel that low is paramount. Even if it means getting some additional professional help, visiting a medical specialist. It's not something to be ashamed of, and this stereotype is, of course, changing with the times. One more thing that I would like to talk about, or rather bring up during our conversation, is on the back of what we mentioned about careers and skills, the requirements constantly changing, and then students try to go in the direction of what they feel would be really, really good opportunities, because a certain career option might seem lucrative at a certain point of time. But then more often than not, more often than we care to admit, students or individuals, professionals do come to realize that initial career choices are not something that they are completely satisfied with. Maybe they took it up purely because they felt it would lead them to success in terms of monetary terms, or because it was what friends were pursuing. But at a later stage, they might realize that the said decision was not aligning with their interests. At that point of time, if one does decide to shift career paths, then what do you think is the tactic to deal with such misalignment of education and the career path, or a changing career path at a later stage?
So see, again, this is a reality of life, and colleges in US, and you know it better than anyone else, they allow you to change your main elective major in the second year or even third year. And one of my batchmate, she's in the same profession that you are in. She lives in Canada, and she told me that 60% of students change their line after graduation. It is virtually impossible to know what are you born for. If you read Andrea Gassi's Open, his autobiography, people would say that he was one of the best tennis players that the world has ever seen. But no, he hated tennis from his gut. His father just pushed him. Thankfully, those kind of fathers are now far and few. But he hated till the time he played, and he hated right from childhood. So it's very difficult to know what you really want to do. I was never sure of what I wanted to do. I took science in 11th and 12th. It didn't appeal to me. Didn't do very well. So I thought, at least I don't want to do science. So I did not pursue engineering or medical. So then somebody told me about BBA. So I got into it. I thought, yeah, this is something that may gel with me. My son is now studying medical engineering. And he's in second year. He's still not sure whether he's chosen the right thing. So I think we put a lot of pressure on youngsters when we expect them to be sure of what they want to do. Please, there is no obligation on all of you to be sure about what you want to do. There is pressure. There's societal pressure. There is a pressure to make career. There's a pressure to have a gainful employment. And therefore you have to put your finger on something, which is exactly what my son did. So you might go wrong, and it's absolutely fine. And to your question, how do you deal with it? I guess it's a pretty commonsensical approach that try and decide as early as possible if you don't like something, and then you got to change. Typically, for example, people would take science because that would leave more options to them. I took science in 11 because I could still get into commerce in college, right? People do engineering, but I think 80% of them do MBA. And when they do their MBA, they don't really use engineering, right? So what's their passion? And these are I'm talking about, let's say, the ITs, the most brilliant students in the country. And if they're not truly passionate about technology, If they were, they would pursue the path of technology. How many mechanical engineers are working in workshops? So we all are trying to navigate our life. We are all trying to make choices that give more choices in future, that appear safe, right? Now, somebody may want to be a cricketer, or somebody may want to be a guitarist, right? Our society generally is not very open to people choosing that career early, right? Now, that is a change that will gradually happen. But I would say that do not put too much of pressure, put your finger on something. There are some aptitude tests that I think you can uh, do to tell you what are broadly some of the things that you don't like. My aptitude test that my son did told him that he should do law, which is what my father did. Even though I don't want to do law. So nothing is foolproof. Just try a few things and you will get something. And it's okay. People, even at my age, are not clear what they want to do. Right now, I don't know what I want to do.
Right. I mean, that is so relatable in terms of when a student has to make a career change. I think the overthinking also is something that they should not do, and break it down to the basics. If you have a certain area or a certain interest that has grown over the years and you would like to pursue that particular area, then definitely go for it. Maybe start small, maybe because you want to, in a way, test it like you're doing a pilot project. Maybe start by an internship, then see if you continue liking it. But trying it is definitely good, and not overthink it, because a lot of people don't know what they want to pursue. Wonderful. I think we also have a few students who would like to ask certain queries. They would have certain questions. We have Mohit Joshi with us. Hi, Mohit. Mohit, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us which year and which department you're from, and go ahead with your question, please.
Surely, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Wharton. Good afternoon, Mr. Agarwal. I'm Mohit Joshi, and I'm from the first year BMS department from Xavier College, Autonomous, Calcutta. So, Mr. Agarwal, my question to you is, so what should a college student who wants to make it big do during their time there? Like, what are some of the most critical qualities that they should work on enhancing?
If you want to make it big, I don't know if there is a clear answer to it, but I'll tell you what I told my children about 5 years ago. I made them write down, what is it that you need to succeed in life? You need basic IQ. You don't need to be a genius. Very important, you need to be willing to work hard. You need to have a sense of passion and purpose. You need to have the right ethics and integrity. You need to have the right EQ. I think dealing with people is the most difficult part. And I didn't know about it. I used to be just like a machine, and I would keep offending people all the time. I think it took me 10 years to realize that I am doing that. Because nobody told me that, and I didn't have that, right? And finally, luck. These are the things. You want to make it big, think big, and keep your head down and keep working at it. There is no guarantee. But if you want to make it big, it starts with thinking big. Ambition has to be the right ambition. That is what I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mohit. I think that was, very scintillating, very, very nice advice. I've actually asked this question to a few people in the past, and Rahul has taken the pain to think and come up with exact points of what somebody would need to do, and very, very valid points, focusing on the EQ, focusing on the IQ, focusing on integrity. These are very valid points. A lot of individuals sometimes say there's no one formula. You have to find your own passion, you have to do this, you have to do that. And yes, while those are also correct, but it leaves a vague taste in everybody's mouth. But this is, in a way, a perfect set of things that you would need to work upon. It's in a way a direction that Mohit and all the other individuals also over here can work upon if they're looking to get into a direction or big. And I'm sure that this would bring success for sure. We also have Akshita Parekh. Akshita, are you here?
Yes, I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes. Please go ahead, Akshita.
Hello, sir. I'm Akshita Parekh, and I'm from the first year of the BMS department. So, sir, my question to you is, because of the COVID-19, most of the world functions digitally. Like we are having this session online right now. So, what do you feel could inspire us as students to incline our interests more towards the traditional ways of working?
So your question is, how do we go back to the old world, which is more physical, more inspiring? Is that what you're asking, Akshita?
Yes, sir.
You see, human beings have this amazing tendency to go back to their ways. We've been around for thousands of years, and a lot of things have still not changed. We still, the basic things that drive us, greed, envy, power, money, they have remained same. And one of the needs that we have is a need to socially interact physically face to face, right? And I live in Bangalore, and if you go out, you can see that everyone is out. The roads are as chock-a-block as they used to be. Colleges have opened. I don't know if Xavier is still not open, but I'm pretty sure it's round the corner. So people are pretty much back to normalcy. Now, the only thing that has brought out that has come out in this pandemic is the right balance. For example, with the Indian city conditions and the amount of time that you waste commuting and the amount of negativity it brings up, do you need to go to office all 5 days? I think more and more people are saying, no, not all 5 days, maybe come 2 or 3 days, meet up, and then 2 or 3 days work out of home. So you get the best of both. And yeah, I'm a face-to-face person, to be honest. But I don't, I also think that many meetings are useful. I would have loved to come to Calcutta in a normal world to do this event. But there are many, because I would have interacted with a lot of people, a lot of you. But I know that a lot of customer meetings that I used to do earlier, I would travel to Delhi just for one half an hour, 45-minute meeting, 6 hour one way, 6 hour backwards, 40,000 rupees, it would take for the company, and it would just be a waste of time. So it's a balance that we have to look at, Akshita, in my point of view.
Wonderful. I think the future is definitely one that will be hybrid, where we'll probably increase the efficiencies by, there's no doubt we all love the in-person interactions, and wherever it's not required over there, we do have platforms such as this, such as Zoom and such as so many of the other platforms where we can happily interact. And the best thing is we can connect with people from all across the world. It doesn't matter if you're in Kolkata or in Bangalore or in New York. Online communication has really put things into perspective. Thank you so much, Akshita. We also have one question from Shrey Rupani. Hi, Shrey.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries. I'm Shrey Rupani, a first year student from BMS department. My question is that you were with Lenovo for 20 years, which means that you figured out what you had to pursue in life at a very early stage. When did you reach that part in your career, and what your advice would be to us so that we could set our goals at an earlier stage of our life?
No, I stayed in the company for 20 years, but I don't think I was very clear about what I wanted to do. I wanted to do marketing. I got into marketing, and I liked that as a subject. I did well. I pursued marketing, worldwide role, but then I got bored of it. And then I said, I want to do sales. So that's a real thing. And then I did sales. And then after doing sales, I said, no, I want to give the top job a shot, and I want to do general management. And I did that. And then I got bored of that. So as I said, Shrey, it's very difficult to be very sure. I think one thing I would strongly recommend is not to be too sure. Be always, it's okay to have a bit of doubt in the mind, because how can you're in first year, right? You must be 19 or 19-year-old, right? How can we expect you to know what you want to do in this big, bad, complex, uh, you know, ever-changing world? So you got to put short-term goals. You got to put short-term goals and say, okay, uh, hey, I'm going to do this. I've got into this. Next 3 years, I will do my best. What has worked for me is that whatever I've done, I've put my best. I've done product roles, sales roles, marketing roles, project management roles. My first job was actually collecting money, credit, setting up. So whatever I have done, I've basically dived deep into it. And I think that is what I would offer to say, that do not overanalyze on whether you're enjoying it, loving it, because that kills the whole thing. Whatever is a job at hand, give your best and make sure that you get noticed. Do not, this is not a secret that you want to keep if you're doing well. If the output is there to be displayed to your superiors, you must go out and display. And there is a degree of uncertainty and mystery that life has. Honestly, I never planned to be in Lenovo and IBM for 20 years. I never thought I would actually quit active corporate life at 48. I never knew that I would do MBA, even when I was in first year of college. So it's a bit of both. You plan because, they say failing to plan is planning to fail. But be clear that a lot of that plan will not happen the way you planned it. But if you planned it, that means you're thinking. Otherwise, you're letting yourself get drifted, which means whatever comes, it takes you. And I can tell you that maybe initial part of my career, I was not very clear. It was not very clear. But as I got into IBM and then I started realizing what I like, I started pursuing that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shrey. I think, to sum up, it is a lot about understanding that we can never know what it is that we would want to pursue exactly to become that, big, successful individual. It's a lot about continuous introspection, on an everyday basis, on an everyday understanding. I have just one more question, Rahul, for you, before I hand it over to Vidushi. I would want to know if you had to give your 20-year-old self some advice, standing here today. Let's say you could travel back in time suddenly and give yourself advice. What would you tell yourself?
As I said, one is I would actively look out for mentors. Number one. Number two, I would be more conscious of the EQ part. I would just want the job to be done. And sometimes I would actually be a little insensitive to people's feeling, because I wanted everyone to work at my pace. And that was hard. I had people reporting into me at an early age and I made it difficult for them. Yeah, these are two things that come right up, Michael. Otherwise, I can pick up a lot of things.
Yes.
In retrospect, even the way I spent yesterday could have been much different.
Yes.
But it's good to not regret too much, but to keep learning.
True, wonderful. And I think both the points you mentioned about, mentorship and even the other point, it's actually in a way just telling yourself or showing yourself a better direction of how you could have learned more, maybe because having the right kind of mentor or having the right kind of direction would have surely helped. But I think, of course, you've done a brilliant job over the years and reached a tremendous position. I wasn't there during the introduction, unfortunately, but I am aware of, so many achievements, especially of taking Lenovo to a stage where it was, I think, captured the largest aspect of market share in certain areas at one point of time. So to bring those kinds of transformations in a company were phenomenal. And to still be humble enough to stay here today and to share this wisdom, and definitely to also answer this question by saying, there are things that I would go back and I would give suggestions, is absolutely, amazing. Thank you so much, Rahul. It's been great interacting with you. It's been great, getting to know what's on your mind, and of course, interacting with all the students of XMS. With that, I would like to, hand it over back to Vidushi and, ma'am over here, and they can take it forward.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. No, just firstly, it's it's been a great event. I think it's also the way you conducted it, Michael. It was conversational, and you gave your point of view also. So I loved it. As I said, I would have loved to actually be there and spend time with the youngsters. I'll just share my email ID, and I'm going to just offer that if anybody has a doubt, please do write to me. I will try to respond to the email. So it's rahul610a@gmail.com. If you have a problem, if you are stuck, feel free to write to me and I'll try to answer. Thank you, and thank you, organizers and everyone, for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon to Father Principal, Father Vice Principal, members of the Advisory Committee, all the dignitaries present here, respected professors, faculty members, participants, and all the students of St. Xavier's College, Autonomous, Kolkata. As we conclude this session, I would like to thank our revered speaker, Mr. Rahul Agarwal, and our dignified moderator, Mr. Michael Wharton, for providing such a thought-provoking session to polish and enlighten the young minds. Thank you so much for taking time out of a busy schedule to join us for such an insightful session today. It was a true privilege for us to have you as a speaker. Your knowledge will be valuable in motivating our audience and will certainly benefit them. Now, I would like to invite Professor Bashanti Das Gupta, Assistant Professor, HOD, Accounts and Finance, Department of Management Studies, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Vidushi. I hope I'm audible clearly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. A very good afternoon to Father Principal, Father Vice Principal, our distinguished speaker, Mr. Rahul Agarwal, our esteemed moderator, Mr. Michael Wharton, and all my dear students. As we conclude this session, I would like to take this opportunity to convey my deepest gratitude to Mr. Rahul Agarwal for motivating our students with his inspirational words of wisdom. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of our distinguished moderator, Mr. Michael Wharton, for engaging in an enriching conversation and making sure that the session was conducted smoothly. I would like to thank Father Vice Principal for his unwavering support and guidance throughout the event, and the faculties for assisting us every steps of the way. My special appreciation goes to each and every member of Team XMS for their hard work and dedication, who took up the challenge of conducting XMC 2020 in a hybrid mode, with the offline event launch being a grand success and the online round settings new benchmarks. Last but not the least, I would like to thank everyone in the audience for being so patient throughout the ceremony and look forward to more participation in the coming sessions. Thank you once again. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. I would once again like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Rahul Agarwal for his enduring words. With this, we have reached to the end of today's session. All students are requested to stay back for a short announcement. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best. All the best.
Attendance form have been rolled out. All the students are requested to fill the attendance form. It will be closed in 15 minutes. Please check the chat box and kindly do the needful.